held his dying commander in his arms. The battle was over. They had lost again. Around them, the city burned under a red sky. Ships of the Dominion flew overhead, dropping fire on everything that still stood. "Listen to me," the commander whispered. His blue blood ran through his fingers. "There is something, in the old archives, a story, a legend." "Save your strength," said, but he knew it was useless. The wound was too deep. "Humans," the commander said. "They called them humans, from a small world in a forgotten corner of the galaxy. The archives say they are different. They do not break. They do not stop. They have something inside them, something no other species has." "What is it?" asked. The commander smiled weakly. "Spite. They call it spite. The will to keep fighting even when there is no hope, even when they are broken, even when they should be dead." His eyes began to close. "Find them if they are real. They are our only chance." Then he was gone. Carried those words with him for months. The war continued. The Alliance lost more worlds, more soldiers, more hope. The Dominion was too strong, too cruel, too endless. They had been fighting for 200 years, and every year brought more death. The High Council met in the Great Chamber on there, was allowed to attend because of his rank, though he was young. He stood in the back and watched the elders argue. "We cannot win," one of them said. "We should surrender, negotiate. Perhaps they will show mercy." "They do not know mercy," another replied. "They will kill us all slowly." Elder stood. He was old even by standards. His skin was pale gray, and his eyes held centuries of wisdom and sorrow. The room fell silent when he spoke. "There is another option," said. "One that many of you will call foolish, desperate, perhaps even mad." "Speak," the head counselor said. "The humans." Whispers filled the chamber. Some laughed, others looked confused. "The humans are a myth," someone said. "A story we tell children. They do not exist." "Perhaps," said, "but our archives contain coordinates, a location in a remote spiral arm, a system called Sol. The records say we made contact with them once long ago. Then we marked their space as forbidden and never returned." "Why?" asked. He did not mean to speak, but the word came out before he could stop it. Looked at him. "Because they scared us, not with weapons or threats, but with what they were, what they could become. The reports called them unpredictable, emotional, violent, but also unstoppable." The council debated for hours. Many said it was foolish to chase legends while their people died, but in the end they had no other choice. Their fleet was broken. Their soldiers were exhausted. They would reach there within a year. They sent a single ship. A small diplomatic vessel with a crew of 12 volunteered to go. He needed to know if his commander's last words were true. The journey took 3 months. They traveled through empty space, far from any trade routes or colonies. The stars grew unfamiliar. The darkness grew deeper. Then they reached the coordinates. A warning appeared on their screens. It was in a language they did not recognize, but their computers translated it slowly. "Sol system, restricted space. No contact advised, turn back." The captain looked at, "Should we continue?" "We have no choice," said. They crossed the boundary. For a moment nothing happened, then their sensors screamed. A ship appeared beside them. It was not large, but it was fast, faster than anything had ever seen. Its hull was dark gray, covered in strange markings. Weapons pointed at them from every angle. "Unidentified vessel," a voice said through their communication system. "You have entered restricted human space. State your purpose or be destroyed. You have 30 seconds." Human, the word hit like a physical blow. They were real. "We come in peace," the captain said quickly. "We are from the Alliance. We seek help. Our people are dying." Silent, the seconds passed slowly. "Hold your position," the voice said. "A representative will board your vessel. Do not resist." They waited. An hour passed. Then a small shuttle detached from the human ship and docked with theirs. The airlock opened. A figure stepped through, stared. She was smaller than he expected, shorter than most. Her skin was a warm brown color, and her dark hair was pulled back from her face. She wore a simple uniform with no decorations. Her eyes were sharp and intelligent. "I am," she said, "diplomatic envoy of the United Earth Command. You said your people are dying. Explain." The captain told her everything. The war, the 200 years of fighting, the billions dead, the world's lost, the Dominion and their endless cruelty. Listened without expression. When the captain finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "We know of the," she said finally. "We have watched from a distance. We chose not to get involved." "Why?" asked. Looked at him. Her eyes were not cold, but they were careful, guarded. "Because the last time we trusted the galaxy, we lost 3 billion of our own people. We were betrayed, attacked, nearly destroyed. We built our walls and decided to survive alone." "But you survived," said. "You are still here. My people will not survive, not without help." Studied him for a long time. Then she nodded slowly. "I will bring your request to Earth. I promise nothing, but I will make sure they hear you." She left. The ship was escorted to the edge of human space and told to wait. Did not sleep. He stood at the window and watched the distant stars. Somewhere out there, on a small blue world, beings he had thought were myths were deciding the fate of his people. On Earth, in a dark room filled with screens, Admiral Han watched the recording of the visitors. He was an old man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had fought in wars. He had buried friends. He had hoped humanity would never have to fight again. But he also knew that hope was not a strategy. "They thought we were a legend," he said quietly to who stood beside him. "A story." "Yes, sir," she said. "They were surprised we exist." Han watched the desperate faces of the crew. He saw their fear, their exhaustion, their fading hope. He had seen that look before, on human faces, long ago. "Prepare a briefing for the Council of Nations," he said. "Tell them we have a decision to make." He turned off the screen and looked out the window at the city lights below. "They thought we were a myth," he said again. "Let's show them what myths can do." The Council of Nations met in the Great Hall beneath the mountains of what was once called Switzerland. Leaders from every continent sat in a circle, their faces lit by soft blue light. Above them, screens showed images of the visitors, the warships, and the burning colonies. Admiral Han stood in the center and spoke. 400 years ago, we reached for the stars. We thought we would find friends. Instead, we found betrayal." The room was silent. Everyone knew the history. It was taught in every school, remembered on every Memorial Day. "The collective welcomed us," Han continued. "They promised trade, partnership, peace. Then they attacked. They bombed our cities. They killed 3 billion people in a single week. Men, women, children. They did not want partners. They wanted slaves." He paused. The memories were old, but they still burned. "We fought back. We pushed them out. And then we made a choice. We built walls around our solar system. We hid. We grew strong in secret. And we swore we would never trust the galaxy again." A voice spoke from the circle. It was the representative from the African Union, a woman named. "And now aliens come to us asking for help," she said. "Why should we care? Let them fight their own war. Let the galaxy burn. It is not our problem." Many heads nodded in agreement. "I understand that feeling," Han said. "I felt it too when I first watched the recording. But then I looked at the data. The Dominion is not like they are worse, much worse, and they are expanding." He pressed a button. A map appeared above them showing the galaxy. A red stain spread across it like a disease. "This is territory 100 years ago. This is 50 years ago. This is today. They are growing. They are consuming everything in their path, and eventually they will reach us." "Let them come," another voice said. It was the representative from the North American Federation. "We have spent 400 years preparing. We can defend ourselves." Can we, Han asked, can we fight the entire Dominion alone? Can we protect Earth, Mars, the colonies on the moons, the stations in the asteroid belt? Can we do it forever? No one answered. A door opened, and a woman walked into the chamber. She wore a military uniform covered in medals. Her face was hard, but her eyes held fire. "My name is," she said, "Captain of the Special Forces Division. I have spent 20 years training for a war that everyone hoped would never come. I have read every report on them. I have studied their tactics, their weapons, their cruelty. And I am telling you now, if we wait for them to come to us, we will lose." "You cannot know that," said. "I know mathematics," replied. "They have 10,000 worlds. We have one system. They have trillions of soldiers. We have billions. If we fight them here on our ground, we fight alone. But if we fight them out there on their ground, we have allies. We have surprise. We have a chance." The debate continued for hours. Voices rose and fell. Arguments clashed like swords. Some wanted to stay hidden. Some wanted to fight. Some wanted more time to decide. Finally, Han raised his hand. "I have heard enough," he said. "I am calling for a vote. Should humanity enter this war?" The votes came in slowly. The room held its breath. The result was close, very close, but in the end the decision was made. Humanity would fight, but on their terms. Han led a small group to a secret location deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, was there, along with and several high-ranking officers. They took an elevator down for what felt like forever. When the doors opened, gasped. Before them stretched an enormous underground dock, and inside it, filling every space, were ships. Hundreds of ships, warships, carriers, destroyers, cruisers, all of them dark, all of them waiting. "We call it the Fleet," Han said, "named after an old story about a man who came back from the dead. We have been building these ships in secret for 300 years. Every generation added more. We always knew that one day the galaxy would come for us again. We wanted to be ready." Walked forward, her hand touching the cold metal of the nearest ship. "They are beautiful," she whispered. "They are weapons," Han said, "and now finally they have a purpose." In the weeks that followed, humanity moved faster than anyone thought possible. Factories that had been sleeping for decades woke up. Soldiers who had trained their whole lives for a theoretical war finally had a real enemy. Scientists and engineers worked day and night. Wu was one of those engineers. He was a small man with messy hair and tired eyes. He had spent 30 years designing weapons he hoped would never be used. Now he stood on the bridge of the largest ship in the fleet and smiled. "I call her the Resolve," he said to who stood beside him, "because that is what we will need. Resolve, determination, the will to keep going when everything falls apart." "You sound like a poet," said. "I am an engineer," Wu replied, "but sometimes the math sounds like poetry." The Resolve was chosen for the first mission, a test deployment, 5,000 soldiers, 50 fighters, one ship against an entire war. Was one of the pilots. He was young, barely 25, with quick hands and a quicker mouth. He had joined the military because he wanted to fly. He never imagined he would fly into an alien war. "Are you scared?" his wingman asked him as they prepared their fighters. "Terrified," admitted, "but I'm also excited. Is that wrong?" "Probably," his wingman said, "but I feel the same way." Jinnah was there too. She was a medic and one of the few humans who had studied alien life. She carried a medical kit and a translator device. Her job was to save lives, human and alien alike. "Do you think they will accept us?" she asked as they boarded the ship. "I do not know," admitted. "They asked for our help, but asking and accepting are different things. We are strangers to them, myths made flesh. That can be frightening." The Resolve left Earth on a Tuesday morning. Millions watched from the surface as the great ship rose through the clouds and disappeared into the stars. was still waiting at the edge of human space when his sensors detected the ship approaching. His heart nearly stopped. It was massive, larger than any vessel, larger than most ships. It moved through space like a predator, silent and deadly. A message came through his communication system. "Vessel, this is the human ship Resolve. We have come to answer your call. Please transmit the coordinates of your nearest conflict zone." His hands trembled as he typed the response. "Prime, and colony under siege. Millions of civilians trapped. They were burning everything." "Coordinates received," the human voice said. "Tell your people to hold on, help is coming." The Resolve jumped into hyperspace. Followed, his small ship struggling to keep up. Hours later, they arrived at Prime. The sky was full of ships. The ground was covered in fire. Explosions flashed across the surface like lightning. It looked hopeless. It looked like the end. But then the Resolve appeared through the clouds. Massive, dark, terrifying. Watch from orbit as the great ship descended toward the battle. On the ground below, millions of looked up and saw something they had never seen before. Hoping. The commander looked at his screens and laughed. One ship. The aliens had sent one ship. His fleet had 20 warships surrounding the planet. His ground forces numbered in the hundreds of thousands. Victory was already certain. This single human vessel was nothing but a minor delay. "Destroy them," he ordered. 20 ships turned their weapons toward the Resolve. Missiles launched. Energy beams cut through space. The attack was overwhelming, enough firepower to crack a moon. The Resolve did not run. It did not hide. It flew straight into the storm. The first missiles hit. Explosions covered the ship's hull. The commander smiled, but then his smile faded. The Resolve was still coming. "Impossible," he whispered. The human ship's armor was unlike anything he had seen. It absorbed damage that should have torn it apart, and now it was firing back. Human weapons were different. They did not use the elegant energy beams that most species preferred. They used something older, something brutal, massive shells filled with explosives, missiles that split into dozens of smaller missiles, weapons designed not just to damage but to destroy completely. The first ship exploded, then the second, then the third. Inside the Resolve, gripped the controls of his fighter and waited. The launch bay was filled with 50 pilots, all of them tense, all of them ready. "Fighter Squadron, you are clear for launch," the commander's voice said through their helmets. "Give them hell." The bay doors opened and shot into space. He had trained for years in simulations. He thought he was prepared, but nothing could prepare him for actual combat. Ships everywhere, explosions everywhere, death everywhere. A fighter came at him, weapons blazing, dodged, twisted, and fired. The enemy ship exploded. He did not have time to celebrate. 2 more were already on his tail. His wingman swept in and destroyed one, handled the other. "Thanks," said through the radio. "Thank me later, we have work to do." The battle in space was chaos, but it was also beautiful in a terrible way. Human and ships danced around each other, leaving trails of fire and debris. The Resolve stood at the center like a mountain that refused to move, taking damage and dealing it back tenfold. On the ground, the real nightmare was happening. They had occupied the capital city of Prime. Millions of civilians were trapped. The enemy soldiers moved through the streets, burning buildings and killing anyone they found. Then the sky opened, and pods began falling. Was in the first pod. She felt her stomach drop as gravity pulled her toward the planet. Around her, 100 soldiers fell with her, their pods screaming through the atmosphere. They hit the ground hard. The pod doors blew open and rolled out into smoke and fire. "Move," she shouted. "Find cover, establish a perimeter." Her soldiers obeyed instantly. They had trained for this moment their entire lives. They spread out through the ruined streets, weapons ready. The first patrol found them within minutes. 6 enemy soldiers, tall and covered in black armor, their faces hidden behind masks. Did not hesitate. She raised her rifle and fired. 3 fell before they even knew they were under attack. Her soldiers finished the rest. "Area clear," someone reported, moving to the next sector. They pushed forward through the city. More came, more fell. The humans moved like water flowing around obstacles, adapting to every situation. Jinnah followed the soldiers, her medical kit ready. She found her first patient within an hour, and child, wounded and crying in the rubble of a collapsed building. "It is okay," Jinnah said softly, using her translator. "I am here to help. I am a friend." The child looked at her with wide, terrified eyes. Jinnah was strange to her, alien, but Jinnah's hands were gentle as she treated the wound, and her voice was kind. "What are you?" the child whispered. "I am human," Jinnah said, "and I am going to make sure you are safe." Had landed his ship at the edge of the city. He grabbed a weapon and joined the fight. He needed to see these humans for himself. He needed to understand. What he saw changed him forever. He watched a human soldier take a bullet to the chest. The soldier fell, gasped, then stood back up. His armor had stopped the worst of it but could see blood. The human should have retreated, should have called for medical help. Instead, he kept fighting. He killed 2 more before finally allowing himself to be pulled to safety. "Why?" asked another human soldier. "Why did he not stop? He was wounded." The soldier, a young woman with dirt on her face and fire in her eyes, looked at him. "Because the mission was not finished," she said. "Because there are people depending on us. Because giving up is not something we do." Watched more impossible things that day. He saw humans take wounds that would kill and keep moving. He saw them carry their fallen friends while still fighting. He saw them laugh in the middle of battle, not because they found it funny, but because laughing was how they kept the fear away. The worst moment came near the end. A human soldier named was fighting beside when an explosion threw them both to the ground. When looked up, he saw that had lost his arm. It was simply gone, torn away below the elbow. Screamed. The sound was terrible, filled with pain and shock. But then he did something would never forget. He stopped screaming. He looked at his ruined arm, and then he picked up his rifle with his remaining hand and started firing again. "Get up," growled at. "The fight is not over." Medical teams reached eventually. They stopped the bleeding and prepared him for evacuation. As they carried him away, looked at and smiled through the pain. "Tell your people something," he said. "Tell them we do not stop. No matter what, we do not stop." The battle lasted for 2 days. By the end, the forces were either dead or retreating. The city was in ruins, but it was free. The civilians who had survived emerged from their hiding places and stared at the strange beings who had saved them. Stood in the central square, exhausted and covered in dust and blood. Beside her, addressed the gathered. "We are humans," said. "We came because you asked for help. We will stay as long as you need us." An old stepped forward. He had tears in his eyes. "Why?" he asked. "Why would you fight for us, die for us? You do not know us." Was quiet for a moment, then she spoke. "We were alone once, surrounded by enemies, afraid. We know what it feels like to believe that no one will come to save you. We decided that we would not let others feel that way if we could prevent it." She paused. "We are afraid too. Every moment of this battle we were terrified, but we fight anyway. That is what makes us human. Fear does not stop us, it drives us forward." Far away on a massive warship at the heart of space, Warlord Mond received the battle report. He read it 3 times. His officers waited in silence, afraid to speak. Mond had led the Dominion for 80 years. He had conquered 1,000 worlds. He had never lost. Until now. He looked at the images of human soldiers, their strange faces, their fierce eyes, their refusal to die when they should have. For the first time in 200 years, he felt something cold crawl into his heart. Doubt. "Find out everything about these humans," he ordered. "Everything. I want to know their weaknesses. I want to know how to break them." His officers hurried to obey. Moan stared at the screen for a long time. "What are you?" he whispered to the images. The images did not answer, but somewhere across the galaxy, humanity was just getting started. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Prime. The galaxy had changed. The fleet had fully awakened. 200 human warships now flew through space, each one carrying thousands of soldiers, pilots, and engineers. They joined the remaining forces and created something new. An alliance built not on politics or treaties, but on blood and fire and shared sacrifice. Admiral Han commanded the fleet from his ship, the Defiance. He stood on the bridge, watching the screens that showed the entire war. Red dots marked positions. Blue dots marked alliance forces. 6 months ago, the red had been everywhere. Now the blue was pushing back. "Report," Han said. "Sector 7 is clear," an officer replied. "The garrison surrendered after 3 days. Sector 12 is still contested, but our forces are advancing. Estimated victory in 48 hours. Han nodded. The numbers were good, better than good. For the first time in 200 years, the Dominion was losing ground. But Han was not celebrating. He had fought in wars before. He knew that wounded enemies were the most dangerous. "What is Moan doing?" he asked. "Nothing visible," the officer said. "His main fleet has pulled back to the core systems. He is waiting." "For what?" No one had an answer. Across the Alliance, humans and were learning to live together. It was not always easy. They were different in so many ways. The valued order, logic, efficiency. They did not understand why humans played games, told jokes, or spent hours creating things that had no practical purpose. Jinnah tried to explain it one night around a campfire on a liberated world. Several soldiers sat with her, including, who had become something like a friend. "Music," Jinnah said, playing a simple song on a small instrument she had brought from Earth. "We make it because it makes us feel things, happiness, sadness, longing, hope." "But it does not accomplish anything," said. "It does not build, it does not fight, it just is." "Sometimes that is enough," Jinnah said. "Sometimes, after a battle, after watching friends die, you need something that just is. Something that reminds you that there is more to life than survival." She played another song. It was slow and sad. And Soldier, one who had lost his entire unit in an attack years ago, began to cry. It was the first time he had cried since it happened. "I think I understand," said quietly. "You feel everything so strongly. That should make you weak, but it makes you stronger." "It makes us human," Jinnah said. "We cannot turn off our emotions, so we learn to use them instead." Wu was also building bridges, but in a different way. He worked with engineers to combine human and alien technology. The results were remarkable. "Your energy systems are more efficient," Wu explained, drawing diagrams on a screen. "But our armor is more durable. What if we put them together?" The engineers were skeptical at first, but Wu's enthusiasm was impossible to resist. Within weeks they had created a new generation of ships, faster, stronger, deadlier. "The math works," Wu said, grinning. "It always does eventually." Not all the news was good. Warlord Moan had studied his enemy. He had learned that humans were strong, brave, and stubborn. He could not break them in battle, so he decided to break them another way. Raiders began attacking human supply lines. They ignored military targets and focused on cargo ships carrying food, medicine, and fuel. They attacked civilian transports carrying families who were relocating to safer areas. The first attack killed 300 civilians. The second killed 500. The third destroyed a hospital ship filled with wounded soldiers and doctors. The news reached the Defiance in the middle of the night. Han listened to the report in silence. His officers watched him, waiting for orders. "He is trying to make us afraid," Han said. He is trying to make us angry. He wants us to make mistakes." "Is it working?" someone asked. Han was quiet for a long moment. "Yes," he said. "I am angry, I am furious, but I will not make mistakes. I will make him pay." Led the response. She took her Special Forces unit deep into territory, to a fortress where Mond kept his most valuable commanders. The mission was supposed to be secret, quick, surgical, but wanted to send a message. When her forces took the fortress, she activated every communication system in the building. She broadcast a message across space, making sure that Mond himself would hear it. "You attacked our civilians," she said into the camera. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned with cold fire. "You killed our doctors. You murdered our children. You thought this would make us retreat. You thought wrong." She paused. "You wanted our attention. You have it. And now you will understand what that means. We do not forget. We do not forgive. And we do not stop until the job is done." Behind her, the fortress burned. Was there for the mission, flying cover with his squadron. He had changed in the past 6 months. The young, eager pilot had become something harder. He had lost friends. He had killed enemies. He had seen things that would stay with him forever. During the retreat from the fortress, a fighter locked onto ship. Was a good pilot, but there was better. The enemy ship was lining up for a killing shot. Saw it happening. He had a choice. He could stay safe or he could help. There was no choice, not really. He threw his fighter between and the enemy. The weapons hit him instead. His ship shook, alarms screaming. Fire erupted in the cockpit. Pain exploded across his body. But he got off one shot before his systems failed. The fighter exploded. When woke up in the medical bay, half his face was covered in bandages. The doctors told him he would survive, but the scars would be permanent. Came to visit him. Stood by his bed looking uncertain. "You saved my life," said. "Why, you barely know me." Tried to smile, but it hurt too much. "Because you are one of us now," he said. "Human or it does not matter. We fight together, we protect each other. That is how it works." He touched the bandages on his face. "Scars mean you lived," he said. "They mean you were brave enough to get close to the fire. They are not something to hide. They are something to wear with pride." Looked at him for a long moment. Then he reached out and touched his hand. "Thank you," he said, "brother." The war continued. The Alliance pushed forward. World after world was liberated. The Dominion, undefeated for 2 centuries, was crumbling. But Mond was not finished. He retreated to a bunker buried deep beneath the surface. There, hidden from the eyes of the galaxy, lay his final weapon, the Void Cannon. It was ancient technology, built long before Mond was born. A weapon so terrible that even they had been afraid to use it. It could destroy entire planets. It could burn stars. Mond activated the cannon and sent a message to the Alliance. His face appeared on every screen, in every ship on every world. "You have fought well," he said. "Better than I expected, but this war ends now. I have a weapon that can destroy anything, your ships, your worlds, your precious Earth." He smiled. "Surrender, withdraw your forces. Give me the humans who killed my commanders. Do this, and I will allow the rest of you to live." He paused. "You have 3 days to decide. After that, I start burning worlds." The transmission ended. On the Defiance, Admiral Han stared at the dark screen. Around him, his officers waited in silence. 3 days, Han said quietly. 3 days to end a war." He turned to face his crew. "Someone get me everything we know about that cannon, and prepare the fleet for a final assault." He looked out at the stars. "If he wants a fight, we will give him one, and we will make sure it is the last fight he ever has." The plan was simple. Simple did not mean easy. Admiral Han stood before the largest gathering of soldiers in the history of the Alliance. Humans, and filled the massive hangar of the Defiance. their faces lit by the glow of tactical screens. The void cannon is located beneath the surface of the, Han said. It draws power from the planet's core. The only way to destroy it is to send a team inside and disable it manually. He paused. This mission will be dangerous. Many of you will not come back. I am asking for volunteers only. He expected silence. He expected hesitation. Instead, every human in the room raised their hand. Every single one. Then something remarkable happened. Raised his hand. Then another. Then another. Soon, every in the room had volunteered as well. Han felt something tighten in his chest. Pride, hope, grief for those who would soon be gone. Thank you, he said simply. We launch in 12 hours, make your peace, say your goodbyes, and then we end this war. Wu found in the engineering bay. She was checking her weapons, her movements precise and automatic. She had done this 1,000 times before. I have a job for you, Wu said. Looked up, Wu was holding a data pad with technical diagrams. The cannon has a central core, he explained. A fusion reactor that powers the whole system. If we can overload it, the cannon will destroy itself. But someone has to get inside and plant the device. Someone asked. Wu nodded. The space is too small for a team, too dangerous for remote control. It has to be one person flying a small craft through the internal channels, one person who knows engineering, one person who is willing to. He could not finish the sentence. You are volunteering, said. It was not a question. I designed this bomb, Wu said. I know how it works, I know the math, I am the best choice. Was quiet for a long moment. The math, she finally said. Does it include you getting out alive? Wu smiled sadly. It is unlikely. Wanted to argue. She wanted to tell him he was wrong, that there had to be another way. But she had been a soldier long enough to recognize the truth when she heard it. Thank you, she said, for everything. Thank me when it is over, Wu replied, if the math works out. The fleet launched at dawn. It was the largest military force ever assembled. Human and ships flew side by side, their weapons charged, their crews ready. Behind them, the worlds they were protecting watched and waited. They were ready for them. Mond had gathered every remaining ship in his dominion around his. Thousands of warships formed a wall of steel and fire. The void cannon hummed with terrible energy, waiting to destroy anything that came too close. Han stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the enemy fleet approach. All ships, this is Admiral Han. Today we fight for every world that they have burned, every family they have destroyed, every innocent they have murdered. We fight for our allies, we fight for our home, we fight for each other. He took a breath. Some of us will not see tomorrow, but those who fall today will be remembered forever. Their names will be carved in stone. Their stories will be told to children 1,000 years from now. That is what it means to be a legend, not to be perfect, not to be invincible, but to stand up when it matters, to fight even when you are afraid, to sacrifice everything for something greater than yourself. He raised his hand. All ships attack. The battle began. It was chaos, beautiful, terrible chaos. Ships exploded on both sides. Fighters danced between the giants, leaving trails of fire, the void of space filled with light and death. Led the ground assault. Her team landed on the surface of the while the battle raged above them. They fought through enemy defenses, pushed through tunnels, and carved a path toward the bunker where Mond waited. Flew above them, his face hidden behind his helmet. His squadron provided cover, destroying anti-aircraft positions and enemy reinforcements. Keep moving, he said through the radio. We have got you covered. Fought beside, he had learned so much in the past months. He had learned how to fight like a human, how to push through pain and fear, how to turn desperation into strength. The entrance is ahead, he said, pointing, 200 meters. Then let us finish this, replied. They broke through the final defenses and entered the bunker. The corridors were dark and cold. Enemy soldiers waited around every corner. And at the end, in a room filled with screens and controls, stood Warlord Moaned. He was tall even by standards. His armor was black and gold, covered in symbols of his countless victories. His face was a mask of cold fury. "Humans," he said, "you have come far, farther than I expected, but it ends here." Stepped forward, her team stayed behind. This was personal. "You killed our people," she said. "Civilians, children, doctors trying to save lives. You thought that would break us." "I thought it would make you see reason," Moan replied. "But your species does not understand reason. You only understand violence." "Maybe," said, "but we also understand justice." She attacked. Moan was fast, faster than any human. His movements were precise, deadly, honed by decades of combat. He blocked her first strike and countered with a blow that nearly broke her arm. Fell back, pain shooting through her body. Moan pressed his advantage, driving her across the room. "You cannot win," he said. "I am stronger, faster, better." "Maybe," gasped, "but I have something you do not." "What?" She looked up at him, blood running down her face. "I have something to fight for." She moved. It was not elegant. It was not pretty. She took his next blow on her shoulder, felt something crack and kept going. She grabbed his arm, twisted, and drove her blade into the gap in his armor. Moan staggered. His eyes went wide. "How?" he whispered. "You hurt my people," said, "and I do not forgive." She twisted the blade. Moan fell. At the same moment, deep beneath the planet, Wu flew his small craft through the narrow channels of the void cannon. Alarms screamed around him. Enemy systems tried to destroy him, but he was too skilled, too determined. He reached the central core. It was massive, a sphere of pure energy that hummed with enough power to destroy worlds. Wu planted the device. His hands were steady even though his heart was racing. He said into his radio, "The device is set. You need to get your team out, now." "What about you?" Her voice crackled back. Wu looked at the screens. The path out was already closing. Enemy systems were sealing the tunnels. He had known this would happen. The math had been clear. "Tell everyone. Tell them the math worked out," he said. "Tell them I was glad to do it." "Wu, no, there has to be." "Get out," he said. "That is an order." He cut the communication. He looked at the bomb. He thought about Earth, about the blue sky and the green forests and all the people who would never know his name. He thought about his friends, about Han and all the others who had become family. He smiled. "For humanity," he whispered. He pressed the button. The explosion was visible from space. A pillar of light erupted from the planet's surface, tearing through the void cannon and everything around it. The weapon that had threatened to destroy worlds was gone forever. The fleet, already weakened by the battle, began to scatter. Without Moaned, without the cannon, they had nothing left to fight for. The war was over. 3 weeks later, a ceremony was held on the leaders from both species gathered in the Great Hall where the High Council had once debated whether to seek out humanity. Elder stood before them. "Centuries ago, we heard stories of a species from a distant star. We thought they were myths, legends, tales to frighten children or inspire hope." He looked at the humans in the crowd, at Han standing tall despite his grief, at her arms still in a sling, at his scars visible for all to see, at Jinnah who had saved so many lives, at who stood among them as a brother. "Now we know the truth. Humans are not myths, they are not perfect, they are not gods, they bleed, they cry, they die just like us." He paused. "But they also do something we forgot how to do. They hope, they fight, they refuse to give up even when all seems lost. They taught us that courage is not the absence of fear, it is the choice to act despite fear." He raised his hand. To our human allies, our friends, our family, we owe you a debt that can never be repaid. You came when we called, you fought when we could not, you gave us back our future. The hall erupted in applause. Later, after the speeches and the celebrations, found Admiral Han standing alone on a balcony. The old man was looking at the stars. "What are you thinking about?" asked. "Wu," Han said, "and all the others we lost, wondering if it was worth it." "Was it?" Han was quiet for a long moment. "A year ago my people were hiding behind walls, afraid, alone. We thought that safety meant isolation. We thought that strength meant never needing anyone else." He turned to face. "We were wrong. True strength is standing together. True safety is knowing that someone has your back." Wu understood that. They all did. Looked up at the stars. "Why did you come?" he asked. "You could have stayed hidden forever. We were strangers. We had nothing to offer you." Han smiled. It was a sad smile, but also a warm one. "Because no one should face the dark alone," he said. "Not even strangers. That is what it means to be human. We see someone in trouble and we help, not because we will gain something, but because it is right." He put a hand on shoulder. "And now you are not strangers anymore. You are friends, family, and family takes care of each other." Felt something warm spread through his chest. For so long his people had been alone, afraid, dying. Now they had hope. Now they had allies. Now they had a future. He looked at the human beside him, this strange being from a small world in a forgotten corner of the galaxy. "Thank you," said, "for everything." "Thank me by building something better," Han replied. "That is what legends are for, not to end stories, but to start new ones." The stars shone above them, brighter than before. The galaxy was at peace, and somewhere in the vast darkness of space, the story of humanity was only beginning. They had been a legend, now they were something more. They were family,